182 voice. How close were you and Charles together? Approximately 2 or 3 feet. Had you gotten to the point where the traverse rod was at the time he began moving? No, I hadn't. Had you begun to move toward it? Yes, I just started to. So you weren't facing toward him at that time? No. Did Charles do anything in relation to Brian as Brian began to move? I honestly don't recall. Did Brian get past Charles? No, I don't think so. At the time when the hammer came into contact with him, do you know what position Brian's body was in? He was in sort of a running position or a jumping position. Was he moving quickly at the time? Yes, he was. Had he struck you in any way at that time? No, he had not. At the time when you struck Brian, were you intending to kill him? No, definitely not. What was the effect of that striking? It knocked him down. It stunned him a little bit. Did he fall immediately? Yes, he did. You did not have to push him down? No. Charles didn't have to push him down? No. Let's go back to where he's down. Where is he down on the floor in the den? Where in comparison with that wet bar? I'd say right over approximately by the corner of the pool table, in approximately the position where the body is outlined in red? Yes. In that exact position? No. After he was on the ground, what occurred? Charles grabbed his right arm, and I told Charles to hold him, and I'd go cut the cord, and we could tie him up. Did you do that? Yes, I cut the cord off the chair, came back and tied his hands and his feet. Did you yourself put any kind of gag in his mouth? I don't have any recollection of doing that. No. Did you take a piece of traverse rod cord and tie a gag in place of that loop that around him? No, I did not. Did you see Charles do that? No, I did not. Were you watching to see whether he would have done that? Yes. At the moment while you were finishing the tying, was Charles gagging him? No, he was not. After you tied him up, what did you do next? I went up through the kitchen into the dining room area. Did you put any stereo wire on him? No, I did not. There appears to be a little piece of light blue cloth or rag that's tied around the right wrist. Do you see that on there? Yes, I do. Did you put that on? No, I did not. Do you know what purpose it serves? I have no idea. Showing you photograph defendants D2. Do you see the traverse rod in that photograph? Yes, I do. Is that in the final position it was in as you were tying him up? Yes, I believe it is. What is your age at the present time? I am 60 years old. Do you recall when you took up residence with Mrs. Edna Duncan, the deceased? When I took up residence with her? When did you start living with her in the same house? I couldn't say. I worked out there for Mrs. Watson, and I would go down there and stay at night because I lived so far. Did you start staying with her at night at a time when Mrs. Duncan was still employed? Yes, she was employed. And how long did you continue to stay in the house with her? I don't know what you mean. How long did you live with her before you moved out and moved next door? Oh, I lived with her about 6 or 7 years. And then you moved out? Yes. Did you move next door at that time? No, I had moved on Peachtree Road. And when did you return to live next door to Mrs. Duncan? Well, I don't know. I know the date, but I haven't got it with me. I don't know just the right date that I moved in. Do you remember what year that was? I don't know that. I got it at home, but I don't recall. Was it after Mrs. Duncan had ceased working? When I moved, I think she was working. Now, with respect to the condition of Mrs. Duncan's health, I believe that you stated that on occasion she would pass out, have these so-called fainting spells. Yes, she did. Were you present on any of those occasions? Yes, I was. And I believe you stated that you gave her a glass of water and some aspirin. I did. Did you call a doctor? No. She never wanted me to call when she felt bad like that. And on these occasions, neither you nor Mrs. Duncan herself ever called the doctor. I took her to, we didn't call, but I took her to the doctor. Did you ever take her to the doctor immediately upon one of those occasions? No. She would come out of them in about 15 or 20 minutes. She would always come out of them. Now, you mentioned Mrs. Hoover. Who was Mrs. Hoover? Was she just a tenant there renting a room from Mrs. Duncan? Yes, she was. And you stated that Mrs. Hoover and Mrs. Duncan's relationship changed, that sometimes it was good and sometimes it was not good. Is that correct? That's correct. Is it true that Mrs. Hoover sometimes was a rather heavy drinker? Well, I don't know about that. She wasn't no heavy drinker, but she took a drink sometimes. And then drinking is one of the things that your sister disapproved of. Is that correct? She told, my sister told her, if that's your life, that's your life. Now, with respect to, you stated, I believe, that Mr. and Mrs. Moore, the defendants, never had any close relationship with Mrs. Duncan. Is that correct? I beg your pardon. Mr. and Mrs. Moore, I believe you stated that they did not have a close relationship with Mrs. Duncan. Is that right? Who is Moore? The defendants in this case. You say, I stated that they didn't have a close relationship? No, I never said that. I didn't say that. I believe you testified that, to your knowledge, they didn't eat at her house or have any meals together. Yes, I did.